When you start changing habits, something unexpected appears, a moment that wasn't there before, empty space in your day. At first, it feels like freedom, a chance to breathe, to do something new. But empty space is tricky. It's not neutral. Something always moves in to fill it. Sometimes that space becomes something better. Exercise, reading, focus, clarity. Other times, drift. Small distractions creep in, then another. Before you know it, the hours vanish and the day has quietly shifted direction. And suddenly, motivation alone isn't enough. Life can't be carried on willpower or good intentions. Rhythm is the real power. What actually moves life forward isn't motivation, it's structure. Quiet, consistent structure that builds a rhythm that carries momentum even when energy disappears. And the surprising part, once you notice it, that rhythm doesn't just move you, it begins shaping the people around you too. In the last video we explored how life isn't really shaped by discipline or motivation, but by the environment that we live in and with the people around us. We explored like the 5 that we get our personality from, the 5 people we hang about with the most. And that isn't just people, but it's also the content that we consume. So I kind of delved into the social media aspect of that and how that can basically change how you present yourself to the world. We also introduced the mini days concept, and that was actually splitting your day into 3 separate mini days. And that was kind of based on what you could actually get done, like activities or work that can be done on, say, like mornings, afternoon or evenings. Now obviously we kind of said that mornings are better for kind of creative work, a bit more focus, a bit more structure, and then the afternoons a bit more collaborative work, or a bit more relaxed, and then in the evenings kind of winding down, planning for the next day, etc. Now that also I think we actually spoke about the 8-8-8 principle as well with that. So that was for, like, obviously 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for purposeful and meaningful work, and 8 hours for yourself. So with the mini days, we kind of split it into 2. So each section had the perfect kind of balance of purposeful and meaningful work and time for yourself. Now that time for yourself does obviously kind of fall in place with the kind of the mornings, afternoons and evenings. Maybe the mornings you could be meeting somebody for, like, going to the gym, exercise. The afternoons meeting somebody for a coffee or go for a walk in the forest. In the evenings maybe do some classes or meet people for dinner. So that kind of leads us on to today's chapter. We're kind of wanting to take that step a wee bit further. So we kind of found that going through these kind of principles of taking habits out of your day and trying to kind of create time available to add new habits in, new things to put in place. Now, obviously we said the last one was about environment, but with this is like we're creating space, we've created time, and if you're not careful, if you don't consciously choose what to fill that time with, because obviously, like, these kind of principles are to, like, you consciously choose what you want, how you want to fill that in, like really good positive things. But if you're not careful, then you could just drift and things will just fill it for you. As I said, we spoke about environment with partners asking you for different things and etc. But with today, it's like we're saying that that's that space, that's the kind of rhythm of your life. Because over the years, like if you just get yourself in a set routine, that's your rhythm. And so for me, like one of the kind of earlier stories that I became aware of not structuring your day properly, or it was structuring the day, was actually I worked in a call centre about 20 years back, and I always did these kind of, I was like full time at the time, but I did different rotas. So one week I was doing 9 to 5, the second week I was doing 10 to 8, and then the last one was, or 12 to 8, and then the last one was 2 to 10. And I kept noticing one of my friends finishing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I kind of got a bit curious. So I asked him, I was like, Michael, what is it you actually do? And he's like, oh, I just work part-time. I would do 9 till 1. And I was like, right, that sounds really cool. But then he said something after it that really kind of, that got me thinking, oh no, like, wait a minute, maybe I need to change something. He says that at 1 o'clock, he goes to the Hilton, the Livingwell gym. So obviously it had like gym, spa, sauna, steam room, jacuzzi, etc. So for me, that was more like about living your life. Like that was when I was saying about designing your life, it was about doing something for you. So in my wisdom, I went from full time and I asked to go down to part time. Now at the time, I think it was only, full time was only £800 a month. Part time is £400 a month, and the gym membership was £50 a month. But I didn't really think of that at first. But like me and my friend, we had an amazing time. Like every day, we did it for about 3 months, and every day 1 o'clock, sure enough, we went down to the gym, exercised, and then down at the jacuzzi and the steam room and stuff. And we end up getting chatting about what would you do if you were like a millionaire or something? What would your like big dreams are? So we had these amazing deep conversation, and me and Michael are actually quite similar the way that we think. It's always about future projected kind of ideas. So it was a really good friend to do that with if you had to choose one. But we used to go for beers after it as well. So I don't know, it was like £5 for a beer as well. So it was, by the end of the month, we hardly had any money left over. And I always remember his girlfriend at the time actually said to him, she was like laughing, she's like, what are you guys like? It's like, you're sitting there imagining what you'd have with millions of pounds or whatever, and like a perfect life, but at the end of the month you don't even get any money to do anything else. So it was just one of those lessons that I had to learn. So as I said, it was like I loved it at the time, but it wasn't sustainable. So obviously, like adding in the beers, the gym membership, and I was only getting £400. What I realised is like, that's like kind of motivation and good intentions, but those alone aren't like enough. You need to obviously structure your day to basically hold that into that routine in place. Because after I left there, I went and done another job, and obviously what we were saying about different times or different environments, like I didn't get back to the gym again. That was the last time that I consistently went to the gym. And because as well, it's like, you're not, for me it was like the time was best because I was out with my friend, but his routine is different from like my routine, and yeah, it was just, I kind of lost that structure. So this is what we're saying now, is about, yeah, like that motivation, like that's just not enough. You need to build structure into your life. Something else I've realized over the years is that awareness doesn't just come quietly. Sometimes it comes with pain. And for me, like I actually had that with the mirror effect from like me splitting up with my wife. Because when we first kind of split up, she was saying that, well, it was like both of us met and we were both kind of doing similar things, but then she changed her job, she changed her role, and she started doing something that she really liked to do. And obviously me, I was still stuck. Now when you start having two people like going down different paths, that's when a gap can really start like being created. Because she was starting her own business, she was moving forward, she was progressing in life, and I was really kind of stuck. I was drifting. I couldn't even move to a different job at the time. I was stuck with that for a while, and I wasn't necessarily making any improvements, and that gap was the main reason why we kind of split up. Yeah, it was just a lack of like her being frustrated and me like really highlighting, shining a torch on my procrastination. And that's what I mean by awareness arrive through pain. Because like back when I was doing the gym kind of thing 20 years back, that was just a kind of small awareness of how, like, if you've not structured your days, then you're going to lose that rhythm. But when it's actually a lesson that's in relationships, that becomes a lot more highlighted and a lot more painful. It's the mirrors really show patterns we wouldn't see on our own. Now this is what I'm saying is like that these kind of lessons normally repeat themselves. First time you normally have it, it's a bit soft, and as I said, I just lost that kind of that kind of going out to the gym and that perfect kind of day strategy. I lost that kind of that structure in my day. But then obviously with the second time, it was really, I lost like the person I loved the most in the world. And that's what I mean, the pain. If you don't learn your lessons the first time, it just comes back to really haunt you. So yeah, these kind of mirror lessons actually go through all these chapters. It starts to really highlight it. Now that kind of, obviously that's about affecting the rhythm of your life. As I said, like for me, I like stopped seeing my wife, and that was because of the kind of the drifting, etc. But what I also realised is that kind of rhythm. That actually, my wife said one thing that really, well, she said quite a lot of things that really stuck in my mind. But one of them was the way that I am with my boys isn't right. And at first I was a bit like kind of wondering what she was meaning by that, because obviously I love my boys so much and stuff. But what I really found is, it's like when I started noticing it, because I've started doing all these like principles, put them into my daily life, my routines, I've been really motivated, I've been out walking, I've been doing exercises, I'm really wanting to do other things. I'm not just sitting around watching TV. All the small daily habits, the bad habits that I had in my life, I've stopped, and I've I've replaced them with good habits. So that whole thing about the rhythm is, it doesn't just affect you, it affects the people around you as well. Now I noticed that with my boys, because before, when I was just procrastinating and drifting, when I went up to see my boys, I just kind of got in the habit of just chilling out with them, watching YouTube, playing a wee bit of toys and stuff, and really just a bit more relaxing. I think they'd done a lot more with their mum, but when they came to my house, it was just more about, like, as I said, like more chilled out time. Now, obviously because I've started doing all these different things, these like kind of routines, principles, adding in, I'm becoming a lot more focused and stuff, that it's really noticeable. It's like the same as what I'm saying about my wife reflecting that mirror to me, that gap between her life and my life. Now, that's what I've noticed, is that when my boys just want to sit and chill, it starts to really get me anxious and get me annoyed, and it's because of it's me that's affected them. I can see it in myself. I can see it in my boys, that it was me that projected that drift onto them. Now that's like it's like kind of ancestral kind of trauma as well, because once I actually started realising and looking at it, that my children inherit the environments and rhythms, not just instructions. They inherited my procrastination, my that rhythm, and that's what I've tried to get rid of myself. So I really need to like concentrate and to make sure that's out of my life, so I can positively affect my boys as well. But when I looked at it, I realised that was the same as like my dad as well, because my dad had depression. He didn't like his job, and obviously kind of back in the day, people just stuck with their job. They didn't change. Nobody had like anybody talking about them to make all these changes. They didn't have the tools that is available to us, and like through the internet or through all these motivational speakers or meeting people. We didn't know, like my father didn't have these kind of principles that he could just kind of fall back on. Now that's what I was saying about awareness. Now that I've found these principles, now that I've saw these kind of ideas and seen them in my own life and how I can integrate them and how I can move forward, it kind of ties into that thing I said about the Matrix guy again, Cypher, about awareness. Like, as he said, like, don't you just wish you took the blue pill and stayed in Wonderland? Because that awareness, as soon as you start seeing these things and noticing them, you can't go back to unnoticing them. So for me, looking at my boys being like taking my procrastination, sitting and chilling, I'm like, I need to do something about that. And what I kind of like, what I noticed is it's about like kind of the small wins. Because last weekend I went and took them to a kind of farm park, and they asked if they could bring one of their friends. Now, I've never had one of their friends over or done something with them, but it ended up being such a cool day. It was like one of those farm parks with animals and different rides and toy things to play with. And I think there was actually like a mini castle. We had swords and shields. And of course, because there was the three of them, they said, right, Dad, you need to be teaming up with my youngest. So I was in there playing swords, sword in my hand and stuff, and like kidding on, we're getting like like killed and stuff. And then we turned it into hide and tig, and we're running about the castle. And I'm sure there's like quite a lot of like other people, like adults, laughing at us because I was right into it. And then there was like the push along go-karts. Now for me, like when I've been growing up, I always liked a bit more of a rough and tumble, and I do believe that boys, especially boys, like that kind of style of play. So in the cars, we were like bumping into each other and all the rest of it. And then later on, we were on this kind of big bouncy trampoline, and I was like kind of tackling them like a wrestling moves and stuff like that. So, but at the end of it, all of us we had a great day, and that's what I want my days to be like with my boys, and not that kind of, as I said, chilling out procrastination. So it's just about the small wins. Of course, like some days that we are just going to chill and stuff, but if I can structure it better and if I can be more focused and plan, then like a farm park like this can be a part of my like weekly life with them. So yeah, it is just about those kind of mini days. Now there's kind of some lessons that I kind of want to say about this, because that's like the kind of It's just these small wins compound the confidence and momentum. There's a guy that I watched, he's called Brian Tracy, and what he says is like one thing that really kind of resonated with me was that if you write things down the night before, like as in what you're going to do in that day, you write the list down, and then the next day, then you can start looking at list and start trying to check them off, like tick them off. Now that kind of feels as if, like what I was saying about that farm part, it was like me ticking that off, and it felt like I got like a wee bit of a dopamine rush, like to say, wow, that was a really great day. Now he goes on to say that if you write things down, that as you said, you want to tick things off, but if you can try to concentrate in the kind of the biggest or hardest task first, that allows you to kind of have that bigger dopamine rush, and then everything else after it becomes easy. Now if you can imagine, there's a thing called the 1% rule, and it's a compounding progress. So that's just like trying to be 1% better each day. It's not about trying to change your life dramatically, like in so quickly, because as we said, it's some days like motivation fades, or it's kind of hard to kind of go through every single day like kind of perfect, or not failing as such. Now the 1% rule is just that as long as you do something like 1% better each day, you still have a sense of achievement. Now with the writing things down, that is you consciously choosing what you want to do. And if you start ticking off the bigger things first, then the next day you might decide to do something bigger or something more, because that dopamine rush that you get like feels amazing. So coupled up with that 1% rule, the next day you're like, right, I might try something harder to push myself. And then that's what I'm saying about the daily small wins, kind of, it's improvements, it's stacking over time. And this actually shifts your life steadily. That structure keeps progress moving, even when the motivation like disappears, as I said. Because structure is discipline. And a lot of people say, oh, it's not about motivation, it's about discipline. But I feel as if these like principles, or these tiny consistent actions, are more powerful than sporadic bursts of energy. And then so for me, it's yourself, your structured habits influence the rhythm of your home, your family and friends. Your structure spreads quietly to those around you. So yeah, like for me, as I said, like adding all these principles in, stabilizing my own like life, then I want to basically, be that kind of example for my kids, and everybody around about me as well. So what we've seen in this chapter is simple but powerful. Life doesn't move forward through motivation alone. It moves forward through structure, through the rhythm, through the small repeated choices we make every day. We've seen how even a short period of intentional routine, whether in a job, a relationship, or with our kids, can shine a mirror on the patterns we've been carrying, the habits we've inherited, and the life we're quietly passing on to others. Small wins coupled in with many days, the 1% improvements all add up. They compound, they ripple, and they slowly reshape the direction of our lives. And the moment we start moving, even in tiny ways, we notice the space opening up for connection, for growth, and for awareness. So the key takeaway today, if you want to change your world, start by changing your rhythm. Start by designing the structure that holds your life together. Everything else, your relationships, your family, your energy, begins to flow from that. And in the next chapter, we're going to take this a step further. We're going to look at how to stabilize the system you live inside. This is where your own energy, your nervous system, and how that shapes the rhythm and stability of everything around you. Because before you can design a life that lasts, you need to first understand how to hold yourself steady. Now guys, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you in the next video. So, Slán Jivá. Ciao.